While millions queue for hours at Egypt's pyramids, there's a rose-red city carved into stone that predates them by centuries, where you can walk through towering canyon walls and stand face-to-face with ancient architecture so stunning, it was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world. This is Jordan, the Middle East's most sophisticated secret, hiding in plain sight. We're just getting started. Subscribe to our channel, The Destination Dupe, to rediscover the world through a fresh lens with stories, perspectives, and culture. One journey at a time. Are you ready? Let's begin. Jordan occupies a unique crossroads in the Middle East, a kingdom where millennia of history converge with contemporary Arab culture, where desert adventures rival anything in the Arabian Peninsula, and where ancient civilizations left monuments that make Greece's ruins look modest by comparison. While travelers flock to Egypt for ancient wonders, Morocco for desert experiences, and Dubai for Middle Eastern luxury, Jordan delivers all of this and more, with a fraction of the crowds and an authenticity that hasn't been diluted by mass tourism. This is a country where Bedouin traditions remain living culture, not museum exhibits, where you can float in the Dead Sea's healing waters without fighting for space, where vast desert landscapes inspired Lawrence of Arabia and continue to host genuine nomadic communities, where Roman ruins stand remarkably preserved in modern cities, and where hospitality isn't a service industry, it's a deeply rooted cultural value. Over the next 40 minutes, we're taking you deep into Jordan's hidden treasures, cultural richness, and extraordinary landscapes. From the rose-red city of Petra to the otherworldly deserts of Wadi Rum, from the Roman ruins of Jerash to the Crusader castles dotting the countryside, from the vibrant streets of Amman to the serene waters of the Red Sea. This is Jordan, the sophisticated alternative to the Middle East's overcrowded highlights. Let's address the obvious first: Petra. This isn't just Jordan's crown jewel, it's one of humanity's greatest architectural achievements, and the reason becomes immediately clear the moment you enter the Siq. The Siq is a natural geological formation, a narrow gorge stretching over a kilometer long, with sandstone walls rising 80 meters on either side. The Nabateans, the ancient Arab civilization who built Petra, recognized this dramatic entrance as the perfect theatrical approach to their capital city. As you walk through this winding corridor, the walls close in around you, the temperature drops, and anticipation builds. Then, through a narrow opening, you catch your first glimpse of Al-Khazna, the treasury. It's one of travel's most breathtaking reveals, and unlike Egypt's pyramids where you're kept at a distance behind barriers, here you can walk right up to it. Touch the carved stone, stand in its doorway, experience its scale firsthand. The treasury stands 40 meters tall, its facade hand-carved directly into the rose-colored sandstone cliff face over 2,000 years ago. The Nabateans were master hydraulic engineers and traders who controlled the incense routes connecting Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. They didn't build Petra with blocks. They carved an entire city from living rock. But here's what most travelers don't realize. The treasury is merely the entrance to Petra. Beyond it lies an entire archaeological city spanning 264 square kilometers. The Street of Facades showcases dozens of elaborate tomb entrances. The Roman Theater, carved into the hillside, seats 3,000 people. The royal tombs display increasingly complex Hellenistic architectural styles. And if you make the 800-step climb up the mountain, past Bedouin tea shops and souvenir stalls tucked into caves, you reach the monastery, Ad-Dir. It's even larger than the treasury, standing 50 meters wide and 45 meters tall, yet only a fraction of visitors make this journey. From the cliff tops above the monastery, you can see across Jordan's mountainous terrain stretching toward Israel and the Dead Sea. Up here, the scale of Nabatean engineering becomes clear. They didn't just carve monuments. They constructed an entire hydraulic civilization with dams, cisterns, and channels that collected water from flash floods and distributed it throughout the city. The high place of sacrifice, reached by another ancient stairway, reveals Petra's spiritual dimensions. This mountaintop altar hosted ceremonial rituals, and from its summit, you see Petra laid out below, the entire city carved into a geological basin surrounded by mountains. Unlike Egypt, where ancient sites close at specific hours and restrict access, Petra offers multiple ways to experience its magic. The Petra by night experience illuminates the treasury with thousands of candles. Multi-day visits reveal details impossible to absorb in a single day. The colonnaded street, the Byzantine church with its preserved mosaics, the countless caves and tombs dotting every cliff face. And the stone itself tells stories. The sandstone shifts through every shade of red, pink, orange, white, and purple, depending on mineral deposits and time of day. The Nabateans carved with the stone's natural colors, creating stripe patterns that remain vivid after 2 millennia. Today, many guides are descendants of the Bedouin tribes who lived in Petra's caves until the 1980s. Their knowledge isn't academic, it's ancestral. They'll show you hidden viewpoints, explain the water channel's engineering, and share stories passed down through generations. This is ancient wonder on a scale that rivals Egypt's pyramids, except you're not viewing it from behind barriers. You're inside it, part of it. Walking the same paths traders walked 2,000 years ago. While Dubai offers manufactured desert experiences with dune bashing and camel rides for tourists, Wadi Rum delivers something infinitely more powerful. A living desert that's remained largely unchanged for millennia. Wadi Rum is known as the Valley of the Moon, and the name fits. This protected desert wilderness spans 720 square kilometers of red sand, towering sandstone mountains, and rock formations that seem sculpted by otherworldly forces. Lawrence of Arabia described it as vast, echoing, and godlike, and that description still holds. But unlike sterile desert resorts, Wadi Rum remains the traditional homeland of Bedouin tribes who've lived here for centuries. The Zalabia tribe manages much of the desert's tourism, operating traditional camps and guiding visitors through landscapes their ancestors have known intimately for generations. Experiencing Wadi Rum properly requires time. 4-wheel drive vehicles carry you deep into the desert, navigating through canyons and around formations with names like Frauthrock Bridge, Kazali Canyon, and Lawrence's Spring. Each location reveals different aspects of this extraordinary environment. Kazali Canyon narrows into a seek where Thamudic inscriptions and petroglyphs cover the walls, ancient rock art depicting hunters, animals, and human figures from civilizations that thrived here thousands of years ago. These aren't roped-off museum pieces. They're right there, carved into stone at eye level, connecting you directly to prehistoric people who sheltered in these same canyons. Frauthrock Bridge demonstrates the geological forces that shaped Wadi Rum. This natural arch, carved by millennia of wind and water erosion, spans high enough that you can climb to its top for panoramic views across the desert floor. The rock itself displays dramatic color bands, evidence of different mineral deposits and ancient seabeds that existed here millions of years ago. Lawrence's Spring, where T. Lawrence supposedly washed during the Arab Revolt, sits atop a hill offering sweeping desert vistas. Whether Lawrence actually bathed here matters less than the view itself, a perspective that reveals how vast and interconnected Wadi Rum's landscape becomes when seen from elevation. The desert's magic intensifies as daylight fades. Sunset transforms the red sand into deeper crimson hues. Shadows stretch dramatically from rock formations. The temperature drops from scorching to comfortable in minutes. Evening brings zarb, the traditional Bedouin feast cooked underground. Your hosts dig a pit, layer it with hot coals and stones, then bury marinated chicken, lamb, and vegetables beneath the sand. Hours later, they unearth perfectly cooked meat infused with smoke and spices, a cooking method unchanged for generations. After dinner, the real Bedouin experience begins. Sitting around fires, sharing tea brewed with fresh sage, listening to stories and traditional music played on the rababa, a single-stringed instrument that produces haunting melodies across the quiet desert. This isn't a tourist performance. It's how Bedouin families have spent evenings in the desert for centuries. Then comes the stars. Wadi Rum's remote location and lack of light pollution create some of the planet's darkest skies. The Milky Way stretches visibly overhead. Constellations appear so numerous, they're difficult to distinguish. The silence is absolute. No cars, no machinery, no electronic hum. Just desert wind and billions of stars. Morning in Wadi Rum reveals yet another transformation. Dawn light turns the sand golden pink. Rock formations cast completely different shadows. The desert awakens cool and fresh before the day's heat builds. For adventure seekers, Wadi Rum offers world-class rock climbing and scrambling. The sandstone provides excellent grip, and routes range from moderate climbs to technical challenges on sheer cliff faces. Hiking through narrow canyons reveals hidden springs, more petroglyphs, and perspectives impossible to reach by vehicle. This is desert authenticity versus desert theme park. While Dubai's manufactured experiences offer air-conditioned comfort and Instagram backdrops, Wadi Rum provides genuine connection to an environment that shaped human culture for millennia. The Bedouins sharing their homeland aren't employees. They're descendants of tribes who've called this desert home since before borders existed. And critically, this experience remains accessible and unspoiled precisely because Jordan hasn't overdeveloped it. There are no resort complexes, no paved roads cutting through the landscape, no crowds competing for the same photo spots. Just the desert, the Bedouin who know it intimately, and you. The Dead Sea straddles Jordan's western border with Israel. And here's what you need to know. Both sides access the same body of water, but the Jordanian side offers the experience without the tourist buses and overcrowding that plague the Israeli coast. At 430 meters below sea level, the Dead Sea is Earth's lowest point on land. Its water contains 34% salt, nearly 10 times saltier than oceans, making it impossible to sink. You don't float here. You're held up by the water's density, able to sit back and relax in a way that defies every swimming instinct. The salt crystallizes into spectacular formations along the shoreline. Rocks become encrusted with thick white deposits. Dead trees jutting from the water transform into salt sculptures. The mineral concentration creates an environment so extreme that no fish or aquatic plants can survive, hence the name. But the Dead Sea's fame extends beyond floating. The mineral-rich black mud found along its shores contains magnesium, calcium, and potassium at concentrations that have therapeutic properties. Covering yourself in this mud isn't just a photo opportunity. It's a practice that dates back to ancient times, when Cleopatra allegedly had Dead Sea products imported to Egypt. The Jordanian side balances accessibility with preservation. Several resort properties offer day access to private beaches, spas, and pools alongside the sea itself. The mountains rising behind the shoreline create a dramatic backdrop that the flatter Israeli side lacks. Perhaps most remarkably, the Dead Sea is disappearing. Water levels drop approximately 1 meter annually due to water diversion and evaporation. The sea's already shrunk by a third in the past 50 years. Visiting now means witnessing a natural phenomenon that may look dramatically different or partially vanish within our lifetime. The Dead Sea sits at the southern end of the Jordan Valley, part of the Great Rift Valley system that extends from Syria through East Africa. This geological formation explains the area's extreme depth and unique properties. You're literally at the bottom of a tectonic split in Earth's crust. This natural wonder delivers an experience you can't replicate anywhere else on the planet. Floating effortlessly in water so dense it holds you up, surrounded by mountains and desert at the lowest point on Earth. And on the Jordanian side, you experience it without fighting crowds for space. While travelers queue for hours to enter Rome's Colosseum or walk the Roman Forum, Jordan preserves one of the most complete Roman provincial cities in existence, and you can explore it without the crowds. Jerash, known in Antiquity as Gerasa, reaches its golden age under Roman rule as part of the Decapolis, a group of 10 cities that represented Roman culture and administration in the Eastern Territories. What makes Jerash extraordinary isn't just its preservation, it's the completeness of what remains. Enter through Hadrian's Arch, built in 129 CE to honor the emperor's visit, and you immediately encounter the Oval Plaza, a unique elliptical form surrounded by 160 Ionic columns. This irregular shape, unusual in Roman architecture, was designed to connect the main temple precinct with the city's main thoroughfare. The Cardo Maximus, Jerash's main colonnaded street, stretches 800 meters through the ancient city. The limestone pavement still shows ruts, carved by centuries of chariot wheels. Original stone drains run beneath the street. On both sides, columns, many still standing at their full height, once supported roofed walkways that shaded shops and pedestrians. The South Theater, built in the 1st century CE, seats 3,000 spectators across its semicircular tiers. The acoustics remain so perfect that a conversation at the stage level carries clearly to the top rows. Stand at the center of the stage and speak. Your voice amplifies naturally through the theater's geometry. No electronic enhancement needed. The Nymphaeum, an elaborate fountain dedicated to the water nymphs, showcases Roman engineering sophistication. This 2-story structure once featured marble facings, ornate carvings, and a constant water supply fed by aqueducts from springs kilometers away. The hydraulic system that kept Roman cities functioning, bringing fresh water in and carrying waste away, remains evident throughout Jerash. The Temple of Artemis, Jerash's primary religious sanctuary, demonstrates the scale Romans achieved in provincial cities. Massive Corinthian columns, some standing 12 meters tall, supported a structure that dominated the city's skyline. Climb the steps, and you realize how these buildings functioned as instruments of power, their size and grandeur reinforcing Rome's dominance over conquered territories. Throughout Jerash, details reveal daily life in a Roman provincial city. Byzantine-era mosaics depict geometric patterns and scenes from mythology. Inscriptions in Greek and Latin chronicle various dedications, decrees, and prayers. The city's walls, gates, and defensive towers show multiple construction phases spanning centuries. The Hippodrome, where chariot races and athletic competitions took place, stretches 245 meters long. Today, seasonal demonstrations recreate Roman military formations and chariot racing, bringing context to the ancient sport that captivated Roman audiences. Unlike Rome itself, where millennia of continuous habitation destroyed or buried much of the ancient city, Jerash was largely abandoned after earthquakes in the 8th century. Sand and soil covered the ruins, preserving them until archaeological excavations began in the 1920s. This abandonment, paradoxically, saved Jerash from the gradual destruction that affects continuously inhabited sites. Today, only about 10% of Jerash has been excavated. Ground-penetrating radar reveals more temples, houses, and structures still buried beneath the surface. What's visible now represents a fraction of the complete Roman city waiting to be uncovered. This is Roman civilization at its provincial peak. Not the imperial capital, but the everyday reality of how Rome administered its vast territories. And you can walk these ancient streets, sit in these theaters, and touch these columns without the barriers and crowds that make Rome's monuments feel distant and inaccessible. Amman doesn't present itself as an ancient wonder or exotic destination. It's a working capital city where 3 million people live, work, and navigate daily life. And that's precisely what makes it fascinating. Start at the citadel, Jabal al-Khala, which crowns one of Amman's 7 original hills. This elevated site has been continuously occupied for over 7,000 years. Archaeological layers reveal Ammonite, Roman, Byzantine, and Umayyad civilizations, each building atop the previous culture's ruins. The Temple of Hercules, built during Marcus Aurelius's reign, left behind massive columns and a hand carved from stone so large it suggests the complete statue stood over 12 meters tall. Nearby, the Umayyad Palace demonstrates early Islamic architecture with its cruciform floor plan and elaborate stone carvings. Below the citadel, the Roman theater cuts into the opposite hillside, a 6,000-seat amphitheater built in the 2nd century CE that's still used for cultural events. The theater faces north to keep the audience shaded, demonstrating Roman architects' attention to environmental comfort. But Amman's real character emerges in its neighborhoods. Rainbow Street in Jabal, Amman has transformed into the city's creative district. Ottoman-era houses converted into cafes, galleries, and boutique hotels. The Duke's Diwan, a restored 1920s villa, showcases traditional architecture while hosting contemporary art exhibitions. Downtown souks pulse with authentic commercial energy. Al-Balad, the old downtown, hosts markets selling everything from spices and sweets to gold jewelry and traditional clothing. The gold souk's vendors sit behind glass cases filled with elaborate Middle Eastern jewelry designs. Nearby, sweet shops display kunafa, baklava, and other regional pastries. Traditional coffee shops remain social hubs where older men gather to drink tea, smoke shisha, and play backgammon. These spaces preserve a slower pace of life that contrasts sharply with the modern malls and high-rises sprouting throughout Amman. West Amman presents the city's contemporary face: shopping malls, international restaurants, sleek apartments, and a growing arts scene. Neighborhoods like Abdali and Waibde host galleries, independent bookshops, and cafes where young Jordanians gather. This divide, traditional East versus modern West, the King Abdullah I Mosque, with its distinctive blue mosaic dome, demonstrates contemporary Islamic architecture. Built in the 1980s, it can accommodate 7,000 worshippers and welcomes non-Muslim visitors outside prayer times, an opportunity to see working mosque interiors, typically closed to tourists elsewhere in the region. The Jordan Museum curates the country's archaeological wealth: Dead Sea Scrolls, fragments, Neolithic statues from Ain Ghazal, and artifacts from Petra, Jerash, and sites across Jordan. The museum provides essential context for understanding Jordan's position at the crossroads of ancient civilizations. Amman's food scene reveals Jordan's culinary sophistication. Medzeh, small plates including hummus, baba ganoush, tabbouleh, and fattoush, reflects Levantine cuisine's emphasis on fresh vegetables and bold flavors. Mansaf, Jordan's national dish, combines lamb cooked in fermented dried yogurt sauce served over rice and flatbread. Street food offers equally compelling experiences. Falafel stands serve chickpea fritters and fresh pita with tahini sauce and pickles. Shawarma shops roast spiced meat on vertical spits, shaving it into sandwiches with garlic sauce and vegetables. Knafe, a cheese-based dessert soaked in sweet syrup, provides the perfect afternoon sugar rush. Throughout Amman, you encounter Jordanian hospitality that isn't transactional. Shopkeepers invite you for tea without expecting purchases. Strangers offer directions and guidance. Restaurant owners check on your meal personally. This warmth reflects Arab cultural values where guests, even temporary visitors, deserve generosity and care. Amman doesn't compete with Petra's grandeur or Wadi Rum's otherworldly landscapes. Instead, It offers something equally valuable, a window into contemporary Jordan, where ancient history coexists with modern ambitions, where traditions persist alongside rapid development, and where you experience the Middle East not as a museum, but as a living, evolving culture. Petra, Wadi Rum, the Dead Sea, and Jerash capture most travelers' itineraries, understandably. But Jordan extends far beyond these highlights, offering layers of experiences that reveal the country's genuine diversity. The Dana Biosphere Reserve protects Jordan's most diverse ecosystems, spanning from highlands to desert lowlands within a single protected area. 4 different biogeographical zones create habitats for over 800 plant species and numerous endangered animals, including the Nubian ibex and Syrian wolf. Hiking through Dana, you descend from Mediterranean climate highlands through areas that shift progressively toward desert environments. The Wadi Dana Trail drops 1,000 meters through changing ecosystems, revealing how Jordan's geography creates extraordinary biodiversity in a relatively small space. Dana Village itself preserves traditional stone architecture from the 15th century. The village, nearly abandoned by the 1990s, has been thoughtfully restored with residents returning to operate eco-lodges and guide services, a model for heritage preservation that maintains authentic character rather than creating tourist-oriented recreations. Aqaba, Jordan's only coastal city, provides access to the Red Sea's northern tip. While this 27-kilometer coastline is modest compared to Egypt's Sinai coast, Aqaba's reefs rival Sharm el-Sheikh for marine diversity with dramatically fewer divers competing for space. The coral reefs off Aqaba host over 127 coral species and 500 fish species. Cedar Pride, a deliberately sunk Lebanese freighter, has transformed into an artificial reef that's now one of the region's most spectacular dive sites. The wreck sits upright on the seabed at 27 meters depth, covered in coral growth and surrounded by marine life. Jordan's desert castles scatter across the eastern desert, early Islamic structures built by Umayyad caliphs in the 7th and 8th centuries. These weren't military fortifications, but rather retreats and caravan stations that showcase early Islamic architecture and art. Qasr Amra, designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, contains some of the best preserved early Islamic frescoes. The interior walls display hunting scenes, bathing figures, and even a ceiling painted as a zodiac star map, rare examples of figurative art from a period when Islamic art increasingly emphasized geometric and calligraphic decoration. Ajloon Castle, built in the 12th century by one of Saladin's generals, demonstrates Crusader-era military architecture. The castle's strategic hilltop position overlooked trade routes and iron mines while providing defense against Crusader expansion from Jerusalem. Today, its intact towers and ramparts offer panoramic views across northern Jordan's Green Highlands. Qais, ancient Gadara, sits on a hilltop in Jordan's far northwest corner. This Greco-Roman city offers something unique: views spanning the Golan Heights, Sea of Galilee, and northern Jordan Valley. On clear days, you see 3 countries simultaneously. From ruins, where Roman citizens once gazed across the same landscapes. Madaba, known as the City of Mosaics, preserves extraordinary Byzantine artwork. The 6th century mosaic map at St. George's Church depicts Jerusalem and the Holy Land in stunning detail, the oldest surviving cartographic depiction of the region. Throughout Madaba, churches and archaeological sites display elaborate mosaic floors that reveal Byzantine artistic sophistication. Mount Nebo, where Moses allegedly viewed the Promised Land before his death, holds significance for Christians, Muslims, and Jews. The summit provides sweeping views across the Dead Sea and Jordan Valley toward the West Bank and Jerusalem, a geography that helps understand the region's biblical narratives. Wadi Mujib, sometimes called the Grand Canyon of Jordan, offers adventure tourism through a spectacular gorge that feeds into the Dead Sea. The Sikh Trail requires wading through water, using fixed ropes and ladders, and even swimming through narrow canyon sections. An active experience that contrasts with Petra's archaeological walking. Azraq Wetland Reserve represents Jordan's environmental conservation efforts. This oasis in the eastern desert historically attracted millions of migratory birds annually. Though damaged by water extraction, restoration projects have begun returning water to the wetlands, reviving habitat for species including the endangered Azraq killifish found nowhere else on Earth. Throughout Jordan, traditional crafts continue through contemporary artisans. Bani Hamida, in the Central Highlands, produces hand-woven rugs using techniques passed through generations of Bedouin women. The Iraq Al-Amir. Women's cooperative creates organic food products and traditional soap. These enterprises preserve cultural practices while providing economic opportunities in rural communities. Jordan offers something increasingly rare in modern travel: authenticity at scale. This isn't a hidden destination that only accepts adventurous backpackers, nor is it overdeveloped to the point where cultural identity disappears behind resort walls. The kingdom has found a balance, investing in tourism infrastructure while maintaining cultural authenticity. You can stay in comfortable hotels, then spend days exploring ancient ruins without barriers. You can experience genuine Bedouin culture in Wadi Rum, then return to excellent meals and modern amenities in Amman. And crucially, Jordan remains uncrowded. While Egypt's pyramids swarm with tours and Morocco's Medinas overflow with visitors, Jordan's highlights receive a fraction of the traffic. Petra, despite being a new wonder of the world, rarely feels oppressively busy. Wadi Rum's vast desert absorbs visitors until you feel alone in a prehistoric landscape. For travelers frustrated by over-tourism elsewhere, by the crowds at Santorini, the queues at Machu Picchu, the commercialization of Morocco's Kasbahs, Jordan presents a compelling alternative. The ancient wonders rival anything in Egypt or Greece. The desert experiences exceed Dubai's manufactured adventures. The Roman ruins outshine most sites in Italy itself. The cultural authenticity surpasses destinations that have been transformed by decades of mass tourism. Jordan also offers practical advantages that make it accessible. The visa process is straightforward. English is widely spoken. Tourism infrastructure functions reliably. Security is stable. Women travelers consistently report feeling safe and respected. The hospitality isn't a tourism marketing slogan. It's a genuine cultural value that shapes how Jordanians interact with visitors. This is a country where you can stand inside Petra's treasury at sunrise with only a handful of other visitors, where you can sleep in the desert under Bedouin stars, listening to traditional music, where you can explore complete Roman cities without barriers, keeping you from touching columns that stood during the empire's height, where you can float in the Dead Sea without fighting for space. Jordan isn't a compromise or a backup plan. It's not the poor person's version of more famous destinations. It's a sophisticated, culturally rich country that deserves recognition on its own merits, not just as an alternative, but as one of the Middle East's most compelling travel experiences. This is Jordan beyond the postcard images, a country with genuine depth, where every region offers distinct landscapes, histories, and cultural expressions, where the experiences extend far beyond ancient monuments into living culture, contemporary conservation, and authentic encounters that reveal the modern nation Jordan is becoming. For the culturally curious traveler who wants ancient wonders without crowds, desert adventures with authenticity, and contemporary culture with historical depth, Jordan delivers all of this. Subscribe to our channel, The Destination Dupe, to rediscover the world through a fresh lens with stories, perspectives, and culture, one journey at a time.